a passenger just jumped off a Royal Caribbean ship, yes, on purpose, and the reason will truly shock you. A dramatic helicopter rescue at sea, and it was my own actual cruise. Disney's most expensive ship ever getting delayed by 3 months, and a crime surge on cruise ships. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. Let's dive right into this week's juiciest cruise news. Now, if you had a Royal Caribbean cruise booked to Labadee, Haiti, I've got some news that's going to affect your vacation plans. Royal Caribbean has extended the cancellations of visits to their private beach destination through April 2026. And I know that's super sad news. I love Labadee. I've been a few times. It's really a great spot. So that means 6 more months of no Haiti stops. And the reason is escalating gang violence and political unrest in the region. Now, this extended cancellation affects 8 ships and dozens of itineraries. So if you're sailing on one of these routes, your ship is now most likely heading to Nassau in the Bahamas, Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic, or Georgetown in Grand Cayman instead. But don't despair, I promise you, all 3 of those are great ports. I have free port guides I'll drop in the comments so you can check them out. And yes, even Nassau is awesome. Now, some sailings are even getting an additional sea day, which honestly some people prefer anyway. But here's what I want you to think about. Would you rather have a guaranteed port or the flexibility to swap when safety becomes a concern? So sad news, but of course the safety and security of cruisers always should come first. But if you think port changes are disruptive, wait till you hear what just happened to Disney's most anticipated ship launch. Disney's $1 billion, yes, that's billion with a B, Disney's $1 billion ship just got delayed by 3 months. So here's what passengers need to know about that. Disney Adventure was supposed to set sail on December 15th, 2025. Instead, passengers just found out that they're now going to have to wait until March of 2026, 3 months later than planned. And this just happened one day after the ship completed sea trials. Now, this isn't just any ship delay. These are not uncommon. Disney Adventure represents a $1 billion investment after Disney bought this vessel from bankruptcy for just 40 million euros and completely reimagined it Disney style. At 208,000 tons, it's Disney's largest ship ever, and now thousands of families have to completely restructure their vacation plans. Now, Disney is citing unexpected delays in the shipbuilding process, which frankly is becoming more common across the industry. There's supply chain issues, all sorts of things at play here. But here's what Disney passengers need to know. Inaugural cruise delays, they happen more often than you might think. So if you're taking a chance on a new ship and you're booking a new ship in the first few months of its scheduled sailing, don't be surprised if that sailing gets delayed. Make sure you have travel insurance, make alternate plans, and don't be shocked if it happens, but hopefully it does not. But I want to know in the comments, have you ever had a cruise delayed or canceled, especially on a new ship sailing? Because what I'm about to tell you next might make you think twice about cruise safety altogether. All right, this next story, it's a little shocking, and I hate to hear this because I love cruising and I hate it when people hear stuff like this and they get discouraged from cruising. But facts are facts. There have been over 40 crimes this year on major cruise lines. So I need to talk about something serious that's happening right now across multiple cruise lines. It's not just any 1 or 2 in particular. Major cruise lines including Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Celebrity, Princess, and MSC have been linked to over 40 serious incidents just in the first quarter of 2025. So this is even old data. We're talking assault, sexual misconduct, and other serious crimes happening on board. Now, industry analysts are warning that without significant changes and safety protocols being ramped up, cruise lines risk long-term damage to their reputation and their revenue. Now, these things don't personally scare me. I grew up in a rough environment, shall we say, so it takes a lot to scare me, but I don't want other potential cruisers or newbie cruisers to get turned off from cruising because of this. So what can you do to ensure your safety on a cruise? First, always lock your cabin door. They lock automatically, but use that deadbolt. Second, don't leave your drinks out unattended in public areas. Not only can crimes happen on a cruise ship, I've heard, unfortunately, several stories of things that have happened, usually with tainted drinks at cruise port destinations like bars. Third, trust your instincts about situations and people. And fourth, know that ship security is there for a reason. So if you get an uh-oh or hinky feeling, don't hesitate to act on it and report anything that makes you uncomfortable. And also, and this is a big one, don't get overly confident. Because there are cameras everywhere on a ship, they seemingly are, and oftentimes now ship security is very visible, especially on Carnival, who has been ramping up security, but that does not mean that you're in a foolproof, completely safe environment. You still have to stay vigilant, unfortunately. So I want to know what you think. Do you think cruise lines are doing enough to address safety concerns? Because this next story shows how quickly passenger frustration can boil over when consumers feel like they're being taken advantage of or they turn against the cruise lines. All right, this next story has Carnival cruisers up in arms again. Been a bad summer for Carnival. I love you, Carnival, but come on, man. What's happening is that Carnival has been swapping Nassau for their new private island Celebration Key, and passengers are livid. Carnival recently changed a Bahamas itinerary to replace Nassau with their new private island Celebration Key. I have a whole review video about it. I have a port guide. I'll drop all that down in the comments. Long story short, it's okay. I didn't love it. I do think it's a little bit of a money grab, and Celebration Fee as a nickname is pretty well deserved. And passengers are not having this change. They're calling it a blatant money grab because their prepaid Nassau excursions are now useless. Hopefully they're refundable, but not all cruise line excursions when booked independently are, which is actually why I love Viator. Most of them are. I'll drop that link in the comments below. And again, most of them are refundable, especially in situations like this. But customers feel forced to book new excursions through Carnival at, of course, jacked up higher prices. Now, of course, Carnival cruisers are not shy when it comes to expressing their displeasure, and the guy that gets the brunt of it is Carnival brand ambassador John Heald. I talk about him a lot. This guy I always say he deserves a raise. He deals with all of the vitriol, and he handles it usually with wit and grace and humor, so kudos to you, John. But he did respond by essentially telling passengers, tough luck, that you should book excursions only through the cruise line because then it's refundable in cases like this. But that just added fuel to the fire and sparked even more backlash. One cruiser fired back saying telling people to book excursions only through the cruise line is ridiculous. The cruise industry charges astronomical markups, facts, for the exact same operators guests could book on their own. And that's why I'm a big fan of booking independently. There are pros and cons and risks of that. I have a guide to booking independent excursions versus cruise line excursions. If you want to check that out, I'll also drop that down in the comment. But commenters like this, they're not wrong. Carnival might even charge you $80 for a beach excursion at Celebration Key that you could book directly with a local operator in a similar area for $35. So the trade-off is protection if something goes wrong, but I do understand why passengers feel frustrated when itinerary changes force them into the expensive alternatives. And of course, I understand when itinerary changes happen because of safety concerns out of weather or things like Labadee with political unrest. But when a cruise line changes a port of call destination like this for seemingly no reason, you can't help but suspect that it is just a money grab. So I want to know what you think about this. Would you cancel an entire cruise over this kind of port swap? Because in case you didn't know too, make sure you read that very long contract of carriage when you book a cruise, because it basically says cruise lines have carte blanche to do this kind of thing, and they offer you no remuneration and they offer you no explanation. They owe you nothing. So that also leaves cruisers really, really frustrated. But let me know what you think in the comments. Is Carnival being wrong for this, or is it just capitalism being capitalism? Up next, a harrowing sea rescue that happened on my very own ship. All right, I just got off Carnival Sunshine. I took a cruise out of Norfolk to Bermuda. I have new port guides on those you can find on my website, profmelissa.com, and I have videos coming soon, so check those out. Wonderful cruise, wonderful time. But it started with some major drama. A guest on our ship needed emergency medical treatment around 4:30 in the morning on September 1st. So it actually happened on the first day. And I remember on the first day, it was around 6:30, we heard a medical alert be called. So anytime you hear code this, code that on a cruise ship, it's some emergency situation. And I later got the scoop from another cruiser who told me firsthand that she witnessed what had happened. So basically she was at the rum bar dancing with this older woman who was using a cane, and she was having the time of her life, you guys. She was dancing, cutting a rug, and unfortunately she had a medical incident and literally just passed out on the floor, which summoned then the medical emergency. First responders on the ship came and attended to her. But according to this woman who actually was dancing with this patient, this woman who was affected, she thought she was dead. She said she was turning purple, that it was a really bad, dire situation. Now, I didn't know about this till later. I just knew there was a medical call. So what happened is the cruise emergency personnel took her down to the med center to give her treatment and to observe. And apparently she was okay. But her condition continued to worsen over the night. So around again 4:30 in the morning, they called the Coast Guard for a medical evacuation. And I missed all of this. I was sleeping soundly, but I heard about it later the next morning, and some cruisers in my Facebook group posted about it, and some of them even got video. Now, the Coast Guard had to send a helicopter out for an airlift, or what is called a medevac, or medical evacuation. And that means that our ship basically was doing donuts. And if you look at Cruise Mapper, you'll see the circles, and it's kind of interesting to see that. We had to stop, do donuts, and wait in the middle of the ocean, far off the port of Norfolk, for the Coast Guard to come out. Now, the evacuation took longer than expected. It was pretty windy that night, and it took the Coast Guard several attempts to drop the basket to evacuate the woman. Now, situation looked really, really bad, and because of this delay, it actually set back our itinerary. This is the first time I've ever been on a cruise with a medevac. I've seen lots of medical emergencies. First time I've been on a cruise with a medical evacuation, and it's the first time I've had an itinerary change so drastically. We basically had our itinerary pushed back an extra day. We were supposed to be in Bermuda for 2 days and then 2 sea days. So one of the sea days just got swapped. So it ended up not being a huge deal at all. But here are some takeaways from this. One is when you're booking excursions, just like the other story I talked about, make sure they are refundable or changeable, because we ended up in Bermuda on different days. Thankfully, I had one thing planned with the resort for a day. I really recommend them for independent excursions, especially for the beach day experiences. I'll drop my link below, of course. And it was very easy just to email them and they changed my date, no problem at all. But this is also a grim reminder of the importance of comprehensive travel insurance for cruisers. It's actually medevacs that scared me for the first time into getting an annual travel plan. And I use an annual travel plan through Allianz. It covers me and my 2 kids for all travel, including road trips throughout the entire year, and it's under $500. And 3 of the last 5 years, my policy has paid for itself. Now, I get a lot of questions about this because unfortunately, I report a lot on medical evacuations and cruise medical emergencies and the high cost of them, including my own experience I had on Mardi Gras back in February. So instead of answering the same questions over and over again, I put together a travel insurance guide specifically for cruisers that you can find down below in the comments and also at profmel.com/insurance. Because when things like this happen, insurance can cover missed shore excursions if you do book them and they're non-refundable. If you are the patient, it can cover your medical costs, the medical evacuation, which can cost tens of thousands of dollars, hotel costs if needed to extend your trip, and all of those other expenses that can really pile up. Now, as for the woman, great news. I will tell you, after hearing from the woman that saw this firsthand, I was not optimistic about this woman's prognosis or outcome. But her sister did post right after the cruise on our cruise Facebook page to say, good news, the woman suffered what they call a widowmaker heart attack, but she actually survived. So that is amazing, wonderful news. I'm so happy for this woman and glad that this story had a good outcome. And if you haven't had a chance yet to watch the video, kudos to the US Coast Guard, because this was a pretty harrowing rescue at sea. It took them a lot of different attempts. It took a lot of skill and maneuvering and competence. So great job to the US Coast Guard and everyone involved with this medical emergency evacuation. Now, speaking of itinerary changes, there's another cruise line that just announced a change that passengers are actually excited about. Really? In case you haven't heard, MSC just extended their world cruise by 12 days for free, and here's why. MSC Cruises had to extend their upcoming 118-night world cruise by 12 days to avoid the Red Sea due to safety concerns. Now, instead of cutting through the Suez Canal, they're rerouting around Africa, which adds significant sailing time. I mean, going around a huge whole continent like that's gonna take some time. But here's the amazing part. MSC is extending the cruise at no additional cost to passengers. So they're getting 12 extra days of cruising, 12 extra days of all-inclusive food, entertainment, all of this completely free. Now, they are offering full refunds for guests who don't want to sail the revised itinerary because it is pretty dangerous. The cruise departs January 5th, 2026, and honestly, if I had booked this world cruise, I would be a little bit thrilled about the extension, but I know that not everyone can handle that many extra days at sea when they didn't originally plan for it. But world cruises are a bucket list experience anyway, so why not extend it and make it even longer? So I want to know what you think. Would you do a world cruise, or is that just too many days at sea? Now, while MSC is extending an offering, much to the happiness of cruisers, others are finally starting to catch up with passenger demands. Finally, yes, finally, Carnival has listened to their fans. They have a new drink package that every non-drinker, hi, it's me, has been waiting for. Carnival just launched something that cruisers are so excited about that they have been requesting for years, and they have repeatedly said, we're never gonna do it. That was lies. That was not true. A comprehensive non-alcoholic beverage package is finally here. Starting on cruises departing this week, you can get virtually every type of non-alcoholic beverage for one package price. This includes specialty coffees, although apparently not in Australia. That's created a whole kerfluffle. But for US audiences, it includes specialty coffees, smoothies, premium sodas, fresh juices, and mocktails. Before this, non-drinkers like me were stuck buying a la carte individual drinks or at those high cruise ship prices, which can add up fast, or stuck buying an alcohol package when they're really not gonna get their bang for their buck. And by the way, if you are curious about cruise drink packages with alcohol and whether or not they're worth it, I also have a video on that. I'll drop that link below as well. Now, I think this is brilliant because it finally acknowledges that not everybody wants alcohol, but we want more than water and lemonade and tea. Families with kids, people who just don't like to drink like me, or people that maybe have health or religious reasons for not drinking, whatever it is, they all deserve package options too. Now, the kicker with this is, in my opinion, it's still not a great deal. It's $29.99 plus gratuity. So for me, I would have to drink a whole lot of specialty coffees to make that worthwhile. The drink that I get on a Carnival cruise is an iced mocha. It's around $5.50, $6, and I'm not gonna be chugging back 4, 5, 6 of these a day to get my money's worth. Absolutely not. Too much sugar, too many calories, that's really unhealthy. I'll just continue to buy them a la carte. But I know a lot of people are excited about it and they're not deterred by the price. In fact, they think it's a good price and they are concerned that Carnival eventually is gonna jack that up, which I'm calling it now. I suspect that they will, probably sooner rather than later. But I want to know what you think about Carnival's new alcohol drink package. Because while Carnival is trying to give passengers more value, some of their other recent decisions have been causing serious controversy, as I have reported here. So it's nice to have some well-received Carnival news for once this summer. Speaking of controversy, MSC is embroiled in some because their billion-dollar ship breaks down again. Now, should you be worried? Well, maybe. MSC World Europa, one of the most advanced ships at sea. It's a sister ship to MSC World America. I just sailed it. I freaking loved it. I have a video about it. Again, you know where to find the link down in the comments. But wonderful ships. These are beautiful ships. They're gorgeous, state-of-the-art, advanced ships. But World Europa, it's on the struggle bus. It just suffered its second engine failure in 1 month. On September 10th, the ship was delayed, leaving Malta, beautiful port by the way, one of my faves, for over 6 hours past its scheduled departure due to engine problems. Now, this follows an incident that just happened on August 25th when the same ship experienced electrical problems that left it adrift near Italy with over 6,500 passengers on board, and the Italian Coast Guard had to assist them at that time. Now, should you be worried about sailing on newer ships? Well, not necessarily. Even the most advanced technology can have issues, especially for the first year in operation. In fact, when it comes to booking a new ship, as I reported earlier, usually the bigger risk is that the set sail date for it ends up getting delayed. And if you're one of those early bookings, your cruise might get canceled and pushed out. But this is another reminder that mechanical failures, they do happen. But what is of concern here is the pattern. This is 2 significant mechanical issues in the span of 1 month on a billion-dollar ship. And so that suggests that there might be some deeper problems that need to be addressed. So tell me, would you feel comfortable booking this ship? Would you feel comfortable booking MSC World Europa after hearing about these breakdowns? Or do you just think it's too much of a risk? Now, circling back to Carnival, not all cruises are happy, but they have another option, a new food option. Some people are excited about it, but some passengers, they're not having it. Carnival is rolling out made-to-order donuts, beignets, and churros across their fleet. And passengers are a little mad about it because they're not free. These are things that are free on a lot of other cruise lines, but these treats range from $3 to $8 each, and people are not happy for paying extra for what's supposed to be an all-inclusive food. One passenger summed up the frustration perfectly, saying, "I paid almost $3,000 for a cruise, and I gotta pay extra for donuts?" Now, I've covered this story before, but I wanted to cover it again because some of you missed it, and I just was quoted in a story that MarketWatch did. I love it when my two passions, business, I am a business professor, and cruising intersect. So I did an interview with MarketWatch because they wanted to assess the economic impact of cruise lines doing what a lot of people, me included, are calling nickel and diming and charging for things that should be or used to be included. Now, here's my take, and if you want to read the article, of course, I'll drop that link below. I understand cruise lines, they have to find revenue streams, and when it comes to the basic fare, especially on a discount cruise line like Carnival, sometimes it's almost a loss leader where the cruise line doesn't make much off of just the fare alone. So they're heavily dependent on passengers to spend money on things like photos, the drink package, excursions through the cruise line, and now things like these extra food items and specialty restaurants. So I understand that need for profit. This is a for-profit business venture after all. But when passengers are paying premium prices for cruising, because let's be honest, our prices are not going down, they're going up, 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 charging extra at a time when cruise fares are soaring, and a lot of people aren't doing so well economically, and charging for basic bakery items that should probably be free, that are low-cost items that a lot of other competing cruise lines don't charge for, does feel a little tone deaf. So I want to know what you think about cruise lines charging for items that used to be free or that other cruise lines offer for free. Because this next story involves some charges of a much higher magnitude with much more significant consequences. A cruise passenger jumps overboard, yes, jumps overboard, to escape a $16,000 casino debt. All right, I'm a casino degenerate. That's how I cruise free. I have a whole guide to cruising on casino. I have a whole guide to how you can cruise free on casino offers. So I get it. I've had many times I've looked at my bill at the end of a cruise and been like, oh my God, I can't believe I spent that much. I'm gonna throw up. But in this case, this passenger was so freaked out by his bill that he literally jumped off the ship. All right, this guy, he's named J. Xander Omar Gonzalez Diaz. That's a mouthful. He was on Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas when he racked up almost $17,000. Okay, I've never been that bad in gambling debts. And instead of dealing with it like an adult, he decided to jump overboard in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Now, what's interesting is he actually had almost $15,000 of cash on his person, so he could have squared up for most of it. But here's where it gets even crazier. He was fished out of the water by people on jet skis, then promptly arrested on federal charges for failing to report transporting over $10,000 in cash. So not only did he not escape the gambling debt, he's now facing serious federal criminal charges. The news has covered this story in detail, but this is a perfect example of how gambling problems and casino spending on a cruise can spiral completely out of control. Obviously, I'm a big advocate for getting free casino cruises, leveraging spending in the casino to get your money's worth in free cruises, but you gotta be disciplined and always know that the house is gonna win, and be careful not to develop a gambling problem because there are real consequences to these things. Casinos are not just entertainment and ways to cruise free, they're serious business, and it can seriously wreck you financially. And if you do go a little crazy and you rack up a big bill, you gotta pay it. Never jump ship.